the paper you guys are using. So I'm just gonna put a couple little flowers. And again, I'm just doing a little quick composition here. Maybe this one has, and I'm not trying to paint that exact flower. All right. Maybe over here. Maybe I'll do another one over here. Just a little composition. And they don't have to connect, you know. So I'm putting these little leaves or these little green areas, little textures around my flower to help me frame it. All right, maybe I'll just have like little whatever those, I think on that thing there was like little things like that. All right, so I just have a couple little flowers here. Make sure that's in the frame. Yep. Photographing the wall the whole time. I'm just gonna use my round brush. Okay, so once I have this, notice I'm not, you don't have to be very detailed, and it's really up to you. I want to leave some of my brush strokes and some of my pencils and some. I want to do most of the work with my brush versus with my pencil. I don't want to stay inside of the lines. I want to kind of play around with the shapes and kind of as I lay color, I'm always just pushing and pulling and going, okay, maybe I don't need this, maybe I need that. And that's one of the reasons why I use a soft lead, is because it melts away, and also I can lift it up pretty easily. So I'm going to start with also with this one first here. I'm just going to put some yellow, so just using my complements here, and just going to pull a little bit of this yellow out into the flower a little bit, and then maybe grab a little of this ultramarine violet, this little mauve kind of purplish color, and maybe just a little bit, and I'm going to use just the tip of the brush, right? It's that kind of nice little petal look to it. I can just kind of put a couple of these little little value here, just to help me give a little like lights and shadow. And I'm going to put a little bit of blue in there to my yellow. Grab a little of that sap green. And if I use this phthalo green here, yellow shade, see how almost very like a glowing green, like a Chernobyl green, very green. But I like the sap green. It's very nice. So grab a little yellow in there, and then just kind of put these shapes, and I'm nice and light. I'm kind of framing my flower a little bit. Again, just putting this, so I'm just using my sap green here. Just making little abstracts, little abstracts, little just shapes, and then I'm going to use a little bit of blue, darker blue here. And I'm not making a green, I'm just putting blue directly on that shape there. Try to keep my posture going here. Little leaf shapes thing going here. Okay, so now that I have that, now what I can do is go ahead and grab a little bit of my a little bit of blue, maybe just a tad bit of that purple in there. And then just Now frame, a little darker. And I'm just painting around the negative part of it. And I don't have to make it too thick. I can just kind of soften a little bit of this edge here, almost like a glowing effect, right? So again, I'm not starting with a huge composition. I'm just doing a couple little studies of these flowers. Again, just soften. He drinks champagne when he's thirsty. So again, nice and light. I'm gonna go right into here just because it's just a little study. And I'm not going too dark yet, right? I mean, I have a couple little dark areas down here, but I'm just being careful not to touch, right? And now, you know, I can even make this one maybe a little bit more violet, like ultramarine violet. And again, I just, that's weird looking, but that's fine. Just a little study. That's a nice thing about painting this way. If it's nice, it can be a painting. If it's not, you don't like it, you call it a study. Oh, just my study. Just my study. So again, let me put a little bit of yellow. Just a little bit here. And I can punch up some of these other areas here by going a little darker. And then just softening. So notice I'm building, right? I'm not going too dark yet. I'm just building as I'm going. It's still a little wet, and that's the same paper you ladies are using. So it's the same technique, and it's not. Notice it's not changing the way it looks. It's just with these little thumbnail sketches. It works really well. If you get a little bit bigger than this with this paper, you start dealing with drawing issues. So now, go ahead and put some saccharine, a little bit less water. Just some movement here. A little dry strokes on top of soft strokes. Right? So we have this very simple, the key here is I'm painting around my flower here, right? I can do the same kind of thing if I'm doing a rose. And I'm not looking at a rose, I'm just going to paint a rose. Just so you guys know, I was never painted so many flowers until I started teaching these classes. So, notice how I'm laying the brush down. Grab a little bit of blue. I'm just kind of dropping these layers. Bless you. I can just kind of pick some of this up here. This is my first wash, right? And then I can, once that dries a little bit, I can put a little bit of a darker, very harder shape versus the soft shapes we have here. And then maybe just put a little bit of these a little bit of yellow. That's pretty thick. And little thorns. See, there's just a yellow and that green there, and then maybe just one little. Don't they have like some sort of sawtooth things? As you can tell, I'm a flower guy. There's sawtooth petals. Maybe another one here. Right, and so again, since I've painted many of these flowers and roses, that kind of stuff, I kind of have a good idea what things look like. And if they don't, I mean, we all know it's a rose. So I can actually put something in the background, making sure not to sometimes touch some of that area. And if it does touch it, that's fine. Those little soft edges, are kind of nice and very pleasing. So with this paper, you want to use less water, not have your, but also I know how much water my brushes have, so that also makes a difference. I'm kind of understand what I have, how to use what I have. So a little bit of this. So again, we have a couple different kinds of ways, and this is just, wet on wet, pretty much wet on wet here. We have a couple harder, more distinct strokes. So we're dealing with soft edges, lost and found edges, these little soft edges here, these harder edges, and I can go ahead and put in, this is dried a little bit, so I can go ahead and put in just a couple of these harder strokes in here. A little sap green, smaller brush, keep my posture nice. And I like putting these little shapes not really on top of that little shape, just kind of have them floating in the middle of nowhere. Why? I don't know. I just kind of, why you ask? Guys, I don't know. I didn't say anything. And the harder shapes. Put a little bit more. Put a little bit more of yellow here. And then last but not least, my personal favorite thing I like to do. Splatter. Splatter. Thank you. If it's not a painting, it's not a Chet painting if there's no splatters. And a little bit of that. Maybe, you know what, just a little, maybe a little blood splatter. And that warmth, it could be a little flower. See how that red just made everything pop just a little bit more? Same thing here. Just a little bit of that there. All right, so that is negative painting. So I'm painting around my subject. You can paint around the subject, or you can I guess paint the subject and paint around it afterwards. Knowing that you don't have to have those edges close to each other. This little white area kind of helps. You're gonna have little bleeding areas, which some people don't like, but I think that just adds a little character, and it makes it look like a painting, right? So don't feel like it needs to be a perfect little, do a whole bunch of little flowers on your paper, right? Any questions on that? No? All right. Go team.